the Lakota, okay, there is a chief. He's the supreme paramount chief of the sovereign nation of the Lakota nation. He's the overall paramount chief. His name is Chief Fast Horse. Okay, Chief Fast Horse is the wisdom keeper and the knowledge, and he carries the ancient knowledge of the treaties and the diplomacy and the governance of indigenous sovereign law, which precedes the War of Independence. It precedes the 1700s. So if any of you are familiar with the wampum belt is the governance, is how the American system was created from the wampum belt, which was the Confederacy, the Iroquois Confederacy, okay? And so that the sovereign law treaty goes back to the wampum belt, which is in the 1660s. I think it's 1660s, okay? Now, back in the day, what do you call that museum? That museum where they were stealing all bones and all the documents and all kinds of stuff, stealing from indigenous cultures and any incredible findings they would be stealing. The Smithsonian, they actually stole the wampum belt and put it into the museum, and they were holding it, and so when I was spending a lot of time with the Mohawks on the reservation, I was on the Six Nations reservation in the 80s and 90s, and I was doing a lot of work with the Mohawks. Now, the person that I spent a lot of time with also, his name was John Peters. He was on the Indian Council for the Six Nations of the Iroquois nations. He was responsible. This gentleman is highly praised. He's passed away now, but he was instrumental on bringing he and a few others were instrumental in bringing the wampum belt out of the Smithsonian back to the people, okay? The wampum belt is the document and the agreement which depicts two peoples in one canoe. They call it the two-row wampum. You can look this up, okay? You can look this up, and this is the earliest sovereign document agreement between the native peoples, the sovereign nations of the Americas, and the 13 nations, by the way, the 13 nations. So this was agreed before even before the War of Independence. This goes back to before the forming of the 13 nations for America. So this document is now being so far. It looks like it's the document that the Americas is going to be refounded on. So this was even before the Constitution. This wampum belt is the Constitution. Okay, the agreement was made with the native peoples and the 13 nations at the time, which was before King George. Okay, it was before King George. Everything from King George onwards, as you know, is a corporation that does not hold water, because the corporation is defunct, and King George is succeeded by the Congress and succeeded by the corporation, which is now defunct. Okay, I hope you're following me here, because when I was in this journey and this vision at the Indian casino, it wasn't anything about the casino. It isn't anything about even the native people. It's about this agreement, this governance, this sovereignty, this law of sovereignty that's being brought through by Chief Fast Horse. Now, when Chief Fast Horse today, and like now, the Vatican, Washington, D.C., and London, and the United Nations have to sit down with this guy. If you were watching recently, he was on 2 podcasts, and he was being interviewed for the first time, and he was bringing out the information. You can look him up, Chief Fast Horse. He was also on Mark Z's podcast, along with the manager of the Rodriguez Trust. They are both working together, and so the UN, London City, the Vatican, and Washington, D.C. Have been calling to sit down, and they have to sit down with this guy. He's the one representing, okay? He's the one representing over 13 million natives. There are not 5 million, Xavier. There are actually more than 13 million. These are the 500 tribes, okay? Now, he's the overall chief of the entire process. He has the wisdom and the knowledge, and he's carrying all of the documents, and he is recognized by the UN, by the Vatican, by London, and by Washington, D.C. In terms of the federal law, in terms of the federal government, in terms of the republic. So as being in this this casino and all of this prosperity is kicking out. Okay, this this dream and this vision that I had really points to the prosperity that's coming from Indian land. It is the indigenous, as it always has said, the rainbow people were going to save the rainbow tribes. But that, I'm not even saying the rainbow tribes. I'm talking about deeper details, and I'm talking about the wampum belt. I'm talking about the agreements prior to the Republic, before the Constitution, and before the War of Independence, before the fake corporation was created by, as you know, the Vatican, London, and Washington, D.C., and all the really bad players. Okay, so okay, I'm born in New Zealand, a young Maori boy. How come I know all about this stuff? I spent many years, 3 decades, sitting with the elders all over the world. I spent years with the Native community, in the Native communities, directly living with them. I know what took place. I was in ceremony with them for tens of years, 10 and 20 years, all across the natives, all across the native lands, all across the native land, all across the HUNA MAUTA Tulu Island. I sat at the dinner table with the one who brought the wampum belt brought it back from out of the Smithsonian. I used to have dinner with him when I was in my 30s and going into in my late 30s. And that was my experience. So this dream, this vision of being at the casino. Now I'm saying it's from the future is because in 3 weeks, we will be on Indian land. Not necessarily the casino, what I'm talking about. We will be on indigenous land with our brothers and sisters, with the elders who are coming to speak about exactly these things. We will be speaking exactly to these ideals, prosperity through racism, through the dissolution and the dissolving of racism, through the dissolving of the codes of racism to bring about prosperity. Racism is at the core of this. It's a very important part of it. Prejudice is at the very core part of the Indian land because there is a prejudice within it that needs to also be cleared, right? You know I'm right. You know I'm right. I know I'm right. I was there. Okay? And I was with them. And at any time, we are calling to be with the elders and they reply, you know? And so they are ready. What I'm saying is they are ready and we are ready. Okay? We are ready. And so we will be there in 3 weeks. The team, we will be presenting our event, the Burning Mask. And you know what that means? The burning of the false face, the revealing of the truth. And we'll be sitting and we will be doing that one-to-one with each other, breaking down the codes. We'll share the protocol of what we're going to be, how we're going to be doing this when once we get started. We're also going to be live streaming the Burning Mask, okay? But so as you can see, this correlation between this dream, the information that has come out from Chief Fast Horse, and also the knowing of being on the Indian land of which we will be, it's just totally incredibly in sync. Is the right timing, and this is where we get to speak. We get to work through the differences in person. Work through them in person. I trust that you have been doing that. I trust that you are doing that. And I can invite you. You can come to do these things. If you are brave enough, if you have the courage enough to sit with myself and the elders face to face, working with the format that I have created through the 3 dimensions, that you sit with us and pick our way through the 3 dimensions to bring this into the physicality of dissolving and removing the codes of racism that do not serve, and recognizing what those codes are. Okay. And so that, Xavier's ready to actually learn something. He can also come too. All of you can come. You're all invited to come. Okay. Yeah. And so, but I put that challenge out to everybody, because you will get to meet. We have some incredible elders coming there to share with us. You must have the courage and the bravery to sit in person with me and the elders, myself and the elders and the team and the public, in public. Reservations, you do know that Indian reservations are federal land, right? It's not governed by the states. It's sovereign land, only in agreements with the federal government. You understand that, right? And actually, even above and beyond the federal government. We all know the reason why Indians and Native Americans, we all know the reason why many people were put on reservations, so that they thought we would die, or they thought that they would die. Not so. They just kept surviving, and they kept having babies, and they kept having children. So this Indian land is sovereign land. And this special account is about, I feel it's about the quantum system. It's a special account. It's like we know that already, that our banking system and our financial system has already been mirrored, and is holding funds and accounts for all of us on this planet. That is a mirrored account to the bank account that you already have. And so we continue along. We do this account, set it up, and the HUNAs leave town.